So, Sharon,
Vanessa.
thank you so much for speaking. Sharan Kafoa, that's how you pronounce it, isn't it?
Pretend there's an R on the end, so Kafoa.
Kafoa, there we go. I told everybody earlier I'm rubbish at pronouncing names.
You did well.
So, your business, empowering, what is it called again? Your business?
My business is actually Why Settle for Ordinary, because I
That's it.
think with women especially, we do tend to just settle and
Yes.
deal with whatever. But a
Yes.
sideline, or not so much a sideline, but it's also for me, we're all goddesses. So for me, it's also about preserving the goddess.
That's it. Yes. And I love that because it's almost, honoring yourself and saying what a gorgeous, beautiful person you are, which so few of us actually believe or feel. So I love that. So Sharon obviously has got those businesses going on. She's a nutritional health coach and she specializes in women's hormones. So I am going to hand over to Sharon because she's going to tell us the things she wished she'd known about menopause. So this will be really interesting for someone who can look back and tell you what went wrong.
Well, I love so much of what I managed to catch of Kylie's presentation. And yes, I was nodding a lot going, oh yeah, oh yeah. So when I went through I'll do a little bit of scene setting here. So it was 20 odd years ago, and admittedly an exceptional set of circumstances, but the main product of those circumstances was an inordinate amount of stress, massive stress. So I was 4 months pregnant when we moved here to Melbourne from Sydney. My husband had moved into a completely new industry as well. We bought our first house. My mother had cancer and was dying. And, my beautiful baby boy had so many frequent flyer miles even before he was born. So he was born, great birth for my maternal age. I had him 3 weeks before my 40th birthday. So cracked nipples and hemorrhoids, happy birthday. And when he was 10 months old, my mother died. So that's what I mean, stress levels beyond stratospheric. But for me, that was just life. That was just getting on and doing. I had no idea about nutrition, mindset, or anything. So when I flipped into an early menopause a year later, I had no idea that I was in menopause. I was still trying to have another baby. My body was still kind of creeping along enough that I was able to fall pregnant, but I had lots of miscarriages. At that time, Kylie will totally get this, my thyroid was out. I'd had adrenal fatigue as well. I also had autoimmune diseases. So my poor body was screaming from every cell. So me going into that menopause, I had no idea what it was. It never even occurred to me that it could be menopause. I was trying to manage a new life, support my husband. I'd promised my mother, as we do, that she could go to her death and I would look after the boys, meaning my father, my brother, my husband, my son. But who was going to look after me? I'd left me out of that equation altogether. But this is what we do, and this is what I did. I hate that advert. I soldiered on. I would spend hours sobbing in the shower after my husband left to go to work. I didn't know that, all the times I was getting hot, especially at night, that it was a night sweat. I'd just wake up in a swamp every morning and have to change the sheets. My mother didn't tell me anything about that. She didn't tell me that I'd need 7 lots of sheets because I was changing them so often. She didn't mention, and I didn't know about, the mood swings. I must have been, quite unmanageable, really, because at some points I think I made the movie Psycho look like a kindergarten film. Really. My libido was all over the place. Depression was hovering. I was dipping in and out. every day, moment to moment almost. I can't remember, I said my libido was all over the place. My vagina was so dry that, I made the Sahara look like a tropical paradise. All of these things nobody mentioned, and it never occurred to me once that I could go to a doctor or seek help, because I just got on and dealt with it.
And the thing is, I think as well, when you're just 40, you think, oh, menopause is something that's going to happen late 40s, 50s. So you probably didn't even have that in your head and just thought, oh, I'm just a bit tired. I've just got to keep going.
Oh, it never occurred to me that it was menopause, and my obstetrician missed it big time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He didn't pick it up. It wasn't until actually when I did my training as a health coach, and I did a specialty as in hormones, that I actually sat here and went,
wow.
Okay. So having that understanding that my thyroid was just out of the equation, my adrenal glands were barely bumping along, coping, and I'd gone into an early menopause because of the stress, the thyroid, all of the hormone imbalances. My diet, whilst not being bad, wasn't great.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, they say generally that you follow your mums into menopause. My mum, I think, went into menopause in her mid-50s, but my mum was from a generation where they didn't really talk about it. And if you think back to further back in time, you'd have your tribe, the community, and you would have your wise woman, your crone, your healer that was kind of on the edge of the community, but all of the women would go to see her. I mean, we're starting to have them now in events. They have, I think they're calling them red tents, and they're starting to bring girls up to understand their bodies and, menstruation, the whole thing, which is brilliant, because we've lost that passing of knowledge and understanding.
Because there's so many families, my relationship with my mum, you wouldn't ask her anything, and so many people you talk to are like that, just because of, I think our generation is, our parents were a little bit of, closed off. We don't talk about those things. And we're just realizing, oh, well, why couldn't you have talked about those things? It would have been so much more helpful. And then you have the, certain families that just don't talk about those things because they don't think it's right, all that kind of stuff. And I think coming across it yourself and struggling with it, and then thinking back, wow, I have no idea really what my mum went through, because you might have, maybe thought, oh, she's a little bit moody at times, but that's all it came down to. You didn't really realize, oh, you're having hot flushes, or you're trying to think of other symptoms. But do you know what I mean? You certainly wouldn't talk to your mum about any vaginal dryness. Not my mum anyway.
No, I mean, my mother, bless her, she handed me a book. I don't know if anyone here's read it or heard it, called Every Woman, which back in the 70s was kind of the eminent book on women's health. And that was kind of the extent of the conversation. I do remember my mother. My mother was, even though she was Irish, she was very proper English. I do remember her sitting there in the corner, with a fan, delicately fanning herself sometimes. And she was prone to, I'm not going to say mood swings, but she could be quite volatile anyway. So these things just kind of, oh, it's just mum.
Yeah, exactly. So what did you do to get feeling better and to get your energy back and to live life again?
It wasn't until, so also to remember that we'd moved down here, so I didn't have a social network. I didn't have a close girlfriend to kind of grab me by the shoulders and say, come on, babe, get together.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we'd gone to visit friends in Canberra and they were raving about some guy they were seeing down here. Turns out he was a naturopath. In the end, I went to see him, and that's what he did for me. He kind of literally said, come on, get your shit together.
Mm.
You know, you're playing the victim here. You know, shit happens to everybody. People's mums die. It happens. You know, what are you wallowing in it for? It's like, oh, yeah, good point. Okay. But again, I'd not had anybody to sort of give me that metaphorical slap across the face and wake me up. And then, of course, he did what most naturopaths do and put me on some rather ghastly herbs and everything else. But that was when I started my recovery and kind of coming back into life. And we'd also, by that stage, my husband and I decided that we weren't going to go down the route of IVF, that I'd honestly had enough of trying to have a baby, and that we would just enjoy being a family of 3. So that was when I started rebuilding life, but I still had no idea about what I could do to support myself. It was kind of feeling my way forward. And I was quite lucky, I think, in some of the people that I met along the way.
Fabulous. And so at what stage did you then become a health coach and start working with people to help them through this?
I started in a kind of more of a wellness capacity about 10 years ago, when suddenly the world of wellness and natural and all of that opened up to me. It was kind of like, oh, wow, where's this been all of my life? I suppose instinctively I'd kind of known. So when I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, I instinctively knew that I had to change what I was doing. So I changed my life completely and started a new career and did all of that. So I've been quite, I suppose that's been quite fortuitous in that I've listened to that side of myself. And being someone who's always cooked from scratch, basically, we haven't had a lot of rubbish, although potentially at some points in my life a little bit more alcohol than was required. But from that point, sort of 10 years ago, I really threw myself into the wellness, health and wellness field, and learning as much as I could. I'm a bit of a science geek. I was also caring for my elderly father, because I told Mum all those years ago that I was going to look after the boys. And so he came to live with us unexpectedly. And I cared for him for 7 years. And when he passed away, it was a moment for me to think about, really, okay, what about me now? My son was in his final years of high school. My husband had his career and he was doing well. My brother's got his own family and he's dealing with his stuff. I don't have to look after anybody anymore apart from me. And that was when I made the decision that I would go into health coaching, because I felt that all that I'd been through over the years needed to be for a reason, for a purpose. And health coaching made sense, because then I could put the training with the personal experience together to help guide women, because I still see a lot of women doing exactly what I did, help guide them through it with a bit of ease and grace and not falling apart like I did.
And what did you do before then, when you were working, before kids and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, I was corporate. I was an executive recruitment consultant for a while. I did a lot of different things. I worked as a barrister's clerk as well. I'd also spent time working way back as a departmental secretary for a university in their departments of medicine and surgery. So I was fully conversant with the traditional medical side of things. But when you marry the two together, I think that's where the magic can really happen.
So what did you do, or what would you have done differently if you had everything happen the same way, you know, and if someone came to you and said, okay, this is what I'm experiencing, how would you say to deal with it for them now, knowing what you have gone through?
As you said, mindset is a big thing. I think when we are dealing with these things that are specific to women, so childbirth and all of this, I think sometimes we forget that this is what we're built to do. This is what we're designed to do. And sometimes we can fight it. We can resist it. So there's lots of things that I do as a health coach, and we do take a very holistic view of what's going on in your life. But I would talk to myself or talk to my clients about not resisting what's going to happen or what is happening, to embrace it, because it is an amazing thing to go through, to recognize, we're one of the very few mammals on earth that actually go through menopause. Most animals, the productive life is to hear and then boom, they die. I think there's us elephants and whales, and it's all about, they're finding that, from menopause onwards, that's when women are actually at their most productive, at their most powerful. So it's actually a time to look forward to and embrace and not fight what's happening. I think when we fight, that's when we build up this stress. So that's one thing, is to relax and move with the flow of what's happening to my body. Also to look more at what I was eating. As I say, it wasn't particularly bad, but I could have eaten foods that would be a lot better to support my gut health, as well as, bring my adrenals up and support my thyroid, which they'd taken out by that stage. Also to self-care. We tend to, as I said, put ourselves to the very end, so we don't have energy for ourselves.
Yeah.
Recognizing those moments that this is not working for me, I'm exhausted, I can't do this anymore, I need to step away, and that's okay.
It is.
Recognizing I need to shut the door and just whatever, I just need this time, and that's okay.
I really resonate with what you say about resisting things, because this is something that I work with a lot with my anxiety clients with hypnotherapy, because as an anxious person, you often are scared by the anxiety and the symptoms. You don't want it, you don't want it, you don't want it. But if you lean into it, stop resisting it and lean into it and go, okay, what is this anxiety showing me I need to change in life? Similar to, what are these perimenopause, menopause symptoms showing me I need to change for my body? If you lean into it and ask those questions rather than go, no, I don't want to be this, I don't want to feel this, you will get far further, and you'll find action rather than stagnancy.
Absolutely. And there's a lot that you can do. I mean, if you are, struggling with hot flushes or night sweats, then, dress in layers. That's what I found. And just accept that, having a hot flush, just reduce the layers. Or, sleeping was an issue, because as I say, my sweats were such that in the middle of a Melbourne winter, I could be lying on top of the sheets naked while my husband's kind of, but again, just acknowledge that it's happening. Just let it happen, rather than no, oh my God, no, I'm having another sweat, I can't do it. Because again, coming back to that cortisol insulin interaction, all you're doing is increasing those levels.
And the other thing you said was the self-care, which I agree totally we're not good at. Universally, whether you're better at it than some people, we're not great at it. And for example, I had a friend back in Sydney who had a friend she worked with, and this was the only person in my life that ever did this, but she used to have me days, like a sick day, it would be a me day. And this was years ago, back when I heard this, myself and my friend used to laugh about it, going, oh, who has a me day? Like, that's very luxurious, isn't it? And now, all those years later, it should be a part of, you know, your sick leave, your holiday leave, and some me leave, so that we can cope with everyday life and stresses. And I think the thing that is interesting about self-care is when you tend to think of self-care, you think of, oh, I have to go for a massage, or I have to go for, you know, whatever it be, and spend a lot of money and be in a spa and all that kind of stuff, when really self-care that is able to be consistent, so it's literally whether it be 5 minutes or a lounge in the bath or whatever, that's the most important. Yes, a spa date is beautiful and a massage is beautiful, but if you can do that self-care that is just those everyday things, it makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
Oh, I love all that you said. I mean, it could be something as simple as, you know, I'm lucky enough, I have some beautiful roses in my garden. For me, just having them there is a form of self-care. Recognizing that I'm kind of over zoomed for the day and stepping away and going and lying on the grass in the sunshine is a form of self-care. Grabbing a book, calling a girlfriend, going for a walk. As you say, it doesn't have to be expensive at all. It doesn't have to be time consuming. You can do little chunks of 5 minutes. I mean, love the idea of a me day, and I think I'm going to start scheduling those in. But it could be just taking a break, grabbing your book, having a cup of tea. Exactly. Whatever you're doing for you is a form of self-care.
And I think just being in that present moment, like literally, like you say, going outside and lying in the grass. On the other side of that, it might be bucketing down with rain. You might go out and stand in the rain, because sometimes standing in the rain and letting it rain down on you is a lovely feeling. And a yoga instructor that I used to know in Melbourne, actually, she used to say, when it rains, it's like the universe is washing away all your negative energy. So if you think of that as well, even things that once you thought, oh, it's raining, the weather's awful, you can put into a positive light and use as self-care for yourself, so that you start reframing how your mindset is working.
Absolutely. And reframing, I think, is a really, it's a skill that we don't tend to use very often. And I think it works very, very well when it comes to self-care. And I think too, as I've said, you know, using that word, and it's okay.
Yes.
You know, we need to take the judgment out of everything.
Definitely, definitely. I'm just reading if anyone's had any questions as they go. Yes, so Narissa said it's weird. Part of me is like, let's just be calm and go through the motions, but my anxiety kicks in and stresses. So by 9 a.m, I'm exhausted and having a mind battle. So what would your advice be to someone who's struggling like this?
Well, I think anxiety is not my forte, but I think it would come down to asking those questions as to what's triggering that anxiety. What's really, like at the bottom, as I said in my comment in Kylie's, you know, modern medicine tends to look at you and go, oh, you've got a nail in your foot, let's just stick a band-aid on, rather than dig down and work out where the nail is, why the nail's in there, and then let's remove the nail. So what's going on? What's triggering it? Where does it stem from? How is it making her feel? Does it need to be there? Is it true?
Yes.
And how would she feel if it wasn't there?
Because a lot of the time with anxiety, what happens is, if you're used to going through stressful times and that has become part of your life, and sometimes you don't actually acknowledge how stressed you can be in your life, Because say, for example, one person may have, like you, Sharon, you know, someone die in the family, I don't know, a redundancy, the house sale falls through, all those kind of stuff. And then there's you who's waking up and feeling stressed and I can't sleep at night. And you think, oh, well, it's not as much as her. I should be able to deal with this. But don't think of, oh, well, I should be able to deal with it. Think of what's going on in my body. This is a big thing for me because physically it's stopping me from doing things and enjoying things. And so, okay, like you said, those questions for yourself. What is causing that? What is going through my mind? And recognizing if it's been going on for a while, it may have become a habit for you rather than actually being an anxiety, like a true anxiety release. You can just get into bad habits and it's just the same as going for a smoke, as having a little panic attack. It's just, you think it's more of a medical thing, but really our brain has just got used to the habit.
Absolutely. And I think too, an important point with what you said is we compare ourselves. Oh, well, what I'm going through is nothing like what Sharon went through. So, you know, what am I worried about? I went through some pretty extreme things over those couple of years that, you know, I hope most people don't go through. But we're all, you know, it comes back to the individuality. That was what I had to deal with. That was my thing. What you're dealing with is just as big for you. It doesn't, you know, we why do women do this? Why do we compare ourselves with everyone else and think that we're, you know, better or worse off because of that? I think sometimes it's acknowledging that this feels pretty big to me. You know, I think there's a lot of power in just doing that rather than, as I say, doing the comparison bit. And then figuring out, is this new? Is there something that's been going on? As you said, am I getting into a habit? Is there something that's just become my new normal, my new ordinary?
Yes. And I've just seen a couple of comments about being single parents and finding it hard and feeling guilty. So this is something that comes up a lot in hypnotherapy as well. And as loving mums, we always want to do the best for our kids and we always think we're not good enough. And that's an extension of feeling we're not good enough in ourselves. Just add on to that, oh, and I'm not a good enough mother, I'm not being fun enough, or
according to whom?
Money, or who, whatever it, enough of whatever it be. And I think letting go of those feelings is so liberating, and accepting that good enough is just all you have to be. You don't have to be like some singing and dancing, you know, famous beauty queen or anything like that. You just have to be good enough. And by accepting that, I believe as well that you make your relationship with whoever it may be around you so much better, because you're less on edge in yourself and can communicate better.
Absolutely. And I think in that there's, you know, I'm not a good enough mother, I'm not this, that, and the other. As I said, according to whom?
Exactly.
Who's there saying you're not good enough? It's nobody. You know, as you say, I always used to think that my son was happy, he was alive. I didn't think I'd messed him up too much that day. You know, we all got to the end of the day and we were all still okay. And that was all that mattered. He was healthy, he was loved.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that is all that they need. I again, you know, when it comes to our kids, we always want the best and we want to give them this, that, and the other. But is that what they really need? Is that what we really need?
Exactly. And what I think is really important as well is to realize that often They don't need all the things. They just need that connection with you.
Yeah.
And to ask yourself, oh, am I doing this good enough, this mothering, or whether it be your work, your social life, your parenting, whatever it be, to keep questioning yourself and saying you're not good enough. Who said, you know? It's only you. And if you asked any of your friends, they would say, oh, I love her, you know, she's the best, you know, person, she makes me laugh, all these things, she's so kind. I once did, and it'll be interesting, I might ask or I'll have a think of how to do this. Yeah, I'll explain it and then you'll understand. So years ago in my yoga training, at the end of the training, we had to write down on a little piece of card, a little sort of note to each person in the course. And no one was to see what it said. And then right at the end, we were given like this little pack. There was probably about, I don't know, 6 or 7 pieces of paper, and you just opened them up and you read what everybody thought of you. Now, usually you would think, oh, whatever negative things you think about yourself. And you opened it up, and I have to say, I actually cried, because it's making me feel like I'm going to cry now. They were so gorgeous. And so when you think of yourself as not being enough, think, if you got your friends to write down what they love about you, what would it be that they say? And even do it. You know, if you've got a group of friends and you need cheering up, say, oh, let's write something down about each other, and open it up. And I've still got those pieces of card. That's probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. But sometimes when I'm going through a hard time, I'll just look at those cards, and it just lifts my spirits a little bit to kind of get me back on track, because no one's ever positive all the time. And that's just another little self-care kind of tool that takes 2 minutes, just to open up, read something nice about yourself and go, oh, I'm not so bad, it's okay.
And exactly. So one thing I've started doing, and I read this recently, a similar thing, is this woman has what she calls her love box.
Brilliant.
And it's just a decorative box, but in there she puts, you know, comments from friends on birthday cards.
Yeah.
If somebody wrote a nice thing about her on social media, she'd copy it down and put it in there. Anything nice like that, that somebody might have done for her, or, you know, a boy opened the door for me today, whatever it is,
Yeah.
she puts in her love box just for that very reason. So I had a birthday recently, and I was reading some of the cards, and it's like, wow, am I really? Oh, okay. Again, here I am questioning, am I really? But that's how these people see me. And it is just something that's really going to sustain me. And I think we should all have our own kind of little love chest that we can dive into when we need that boost, when we're sitting there thinking, oh, I'm crap at this, and I'm pathetic, and I didn't do my diet, and my weight's going up, and I don't know, and remind yourself that you are insanely fabulous. You are a bright, sparkly, gorgeous being, and that what you're doing is enough and is okay.
Yes, totally. I love that idea of the love box. There was one thing, oh, it's gone out of my mind. Oh, I wanted to ask you. It might come back, it might not. But yes, I think those repeated reminders of, that was what I was going to say. Everybody, it was Sharon's birthday. Can I ask you, what age do you think she is? Because I think she looks like 20 odd years younger than she is. Amazing. So what I am saying this for is, the speakers that we've had on obviously are of the age that they have either been experiencing perimenopause symptoms, or they're experienced menopause, or even postmenopause. And what I like to see is that everybody looks younger than they actually are, and it's all because of the work they're doing on themselves. So everybody is a living, breathing, you know, expression of the self-love, the healthy nutrition, the work they do to balance their hormones, the exercise. And I think it's a very superficial way, but also a good way to look at things, to go, well, yes, I can see you. And how old are you, Sharon? 60?
60.
Can you believe it, people? I can look at you and I can look at other 60-year-olds and I can see that other people are not looking after themselves quite as well, you know? So
Thank you, Kylie.
Often we talk about what we should do on the inside, which is the most important. But in today's society, we are very concerned about what we look like on the outside. And I think it's a good way to kind of twist that and use it to our ability to go, well, if we do these things to work on our inside, we are going to turn out looking fabulous as well.
And there's a lot we can do to, as you say, work on the inside, but as well as, you know, coming in from the outside. It's a combination of the two. I think too, because I am now 15 years postmenopausal. So there's a whole part about being postmenopausal that nobody really talks about or tells you about as well. That's been fun. But one of the main things is, I think, for me, it's certainly been empowering that I don't have to worry about periods anymore. I don't have to worry about child rearing. I don't have to worry about any of that kind of thing. You know, I don't really have to worry about, and it's kind of sad in a way, but I don't have to worry about guys checking me out or what the guys might be thinking. I mean, frankly, I don't care what they're thinking. And that is really empowering. And you do get to a point where you have so many less to give.
Yes. And I think that's a good roundup, because Sally Ann mentioned before that she was saying yes to you saying that postmenopausal women being in their most productive and most powerful states. And I can't remember where it is I read about it, but years ago I read something about tribeswomen somewhere, you know, Africa or somewhere like that. And the story of their life and how they're celebrated for becoming these powerful women. And it's so far from what we have in Western society. And it's fantastic now that all this kind of stuff is coming about and that we are stepping into our power now.
Absolutely. I think it's a shame that that kind of almost mythical wise woman aura has gone, you know, got dissipated through the years. But as I agree, I think it is slowly starting to come back. And this is where, you know, you've done an amazing job with putting this summit together. I think this is where we need to start opening up this conversation again and bringing it into the world, because, you know, we're not just there to have babies, whether you choose to or not. There is so much more to us through every stage of our lives. And just because we've kind of hit postmenopause, it doesn't mean that, oh, well, that's it, she's done. You know, we are, I think I read an article, it might have been along the same lines, where, you know, the women in these African tribes, the postmenopausal women, were much better at gathering. They were looking after people within the tribe. They were healers. They had far more energy. They got more done. They just contributed so much more to their society. And yet we're not really allowed to do that. Exactly. In Western society. So we need to change that.
Exactly. We're on a mission.
Absolutely.
Fabulous. Oh, amazing, Sharon. Thank you. Thank you, Kylie. I'm just double checking if there's any last minute questions. Any last minute questions for Sharon? I will get everybody your contact details, Sharon, but tell everybody where they should contact you? And do you see people in person or online or both? All that kind of stuff.
Well, you can find me online. My website is preservethegoddess.com. So you can find me there, and there are details on how to contact me. I'm in Victoria, so we are now allowed to see people in person, but I also see people. I know, right? I also see people online, and even if you just want to, you're not too sure, let's just get in touch and let's just have a chat. I might be the right person for you, I might not. But I think, across today, Vanessa, you're bringing some incredible women together who have so much knowledge and experience and wisdom to pass on. I think one of the biggest things that I almost regret from when I was struggling all those years ago was I didn't ask anyone for help. I didn't reach out to anybody. So across today, you've had access to some amazing people. Seek help, take advantage of because a lot of what we do has come from our own personal experiences. So seek out that help. And there are a lot of things that you can do without having to go down the medical route. Yes, sometimes you need to, but there's also so much you can do yourself. So yes, preservethegoddess.com. I'm also on Instagram as Why Settle for Ordinary. So you'll find me there in either spot.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sharon. And I love what you say, because Wendy said it as well before. I can't remember what we were talking about, but what was she saying? It was about, I've forgotten what it was saying, but she was like, I don't do that kind of thing, so I would send you off to see someone else. And I love today that, we are brilliant at what we do, and we're brilliant at saying what we don't do. We truly would prefer to send a client to someone else than pretend to be able to help them, because from the bottom of our hearts, we do want you to get better and feel better. So if you feel, you resonated with a particular speaker and you want to chat to them, feel free to get in contact with them. If that particular speaker can chat to you and uncover what exactly you need, but can't work with you because someone else is more experienced or, their speciality, they'll give you the person's name that they think you need to work with. If they are the person you should work with, they'll be able to tell you, and you'll know from the bottom of your heart that that will be truly, the right decision, because no one here is just doing it to get clients. They truly, truly want to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have my tribe of, women around me who I love. And I've referred clients of mine to, a girlfriend who's a kinesiologist, because we're kind of touching on things that are a little bit outside my scope of practice. Again, I've dietitians, nutritionists, all those sorts of things. That's what we do because we care.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Oh, thank you, darling. I've loved it.
Yeah, I could have chatted for ages. I'm sure we'll do it again soon.
Thank you, everybody, for your lovely comments too. Much appreciated.
Happy birthday as well. Keep celebrating.
Thank you.
Oh, I am.